Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have the Chronicles of Narnia, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. This is the third in a series in its trilogy of films put out by 20th Century Fox and Walden Media back in the early 2000s. This is the third one. It came out in 2010. It's an hour and 54 minutes long, and yes, this is the wrap-up. I mean, honestly, if this probably had done bigger business, I imagine. I don't know if it did bad, but it came and went in theaters. It feels like it came and went in theaters like that. Like, I don't remember it sticking around very long. Yeah, we were in the middle of an era in which Marvel was on the rise after 2008's Iron Man. And it's sort of the fantasy genre was kind of in that after Lord of the Rings and before The Hobbit kind of situation. Twilight was around, and I mean, the reason why this was finally put to such a high level, big blockbuster effects level type of film release, follow it from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is the iconic original story that most people know. I haven't read Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I didn't read Prince Caspian. I only read when I was very little. I probably have the copy of it around here somewhere, and it is very old. I only read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So yeah, it's in this case, while I liked the book as a kid, I just really never went for it. And the sequels seem to be obligatory. Like, you put out the first one, let's make the rest of the books for at least, the big ones. And I don't know if this one is necessarily exactly an adaptation of Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I know enough that I think that it's not exact. I think. I'm not a big on the C.S. Lewis lore, but you gotta understand that the reason why this was made was because Lord of the Rings was kicking butt at the box office and won an Academy Award for Return of the King, and so everybody started grabbing up old fantasy properties and new fantasy properties. This is kind of, yes, this is pre-exists Harry Potter by decades, but the idea is that it's children in a fantasy world. There you go, Harry Potter. And then also a fantasy world that has deep lore. Well, that's Lord of the Rings. That's The Hobbit. That's J.R.R. Tolkien, who was a contemporary of C.S. Lewis. They were buddies. So it's kind of a whole thing that how could you not release this movie or these movies into theaters with the full backing of the kind of effects and characterization and style that you get with a Lord of the Rings type film or a Harry Potter type film. But yeah, by the time this one came out, I don't know if anybody saw it. And the sad thing is that it's good. I liked it. I mean, it stands on its own to a certain degree. Yes, it pulls generously from all the other films, and there is reappearances of certain characters, alive and dead, through in this film, portrayed by the same actors. There's also Aslan is back. Liam Neeson does his voice. Reepicheep is voiced by Simon Pegg, and I don't recall if he was Reepicheep in the other ones. I don't know. If he was, it just totally erased my mind, but I was kind of surprised that it was him. In this story, we only get two of the four kids. There's two of the four kids have returned for this story, and they get Eustace, what's his name? Eustace Scrubb, played by Will Poulter, joining them on this adventure, and he's a total jerk. He's younger than them, and he's a brat. The cousins have gone to live with them. Lucy is off in America. We see Peter. I don't know where Peter is necessarily. The actors make an appearance in the film, but they are not part of the story. The main actors in the story. This is why can't I say his name? This is Edmund and Lucy's. Sorry, Lucy is the one who stayed. What's their big sister's name? Dang it, my brain is all pooped out here. Yeah, Susan, played by come on, Anna Popplewell, and William Moseley as Peter. They have very small appearances in this, but this is Lucy and Edmund's story for the most part, with Eustace, and of course Prince Caspian returns, played by Ben Barnes. You might also, I remember seeing him, like, why do you look so familiar? Well, he was in the Punisher series on Netflix, now Disney Plus. He's in a bunch of other stuff. You'll recognize him, but I just forgot that he was Prince Caspian. So anyway, this brings them into the world of Narnia in a whole new way. There's no wardrobe this time, and it's a really cool, kind of a cool effect. It's actually really well done, and how they get back from it also is a really well done effect. Effects all around for this, they're not perfect, but for being now almost 13 years old, they hold up. They're actually better than I expected. Maybe it was just how the computer monitor that I watched it on, I don't know, that it looked good. And this is, by the way, this is directed by Michael Apted, and he is, before I screw this up, he's done a bunch of stuff, but he's done Rome and Enigma and a bunch of other stuff. Ray Donovan, he's done a lot of TV things. But the really strange thing about this is that the writers you might recognize more than anybody, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, along with Michael Petroni. But Marcus and McFeely, if you know those names, it's because you saw Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, and also Captain America. I think did he do Winter Soldier? They did one of the Captain America films, along with the two Infinity Wars. They worked with the Russos a lot, apparently. And in this, I was like, this is really well paced. The action's good. There's a lot of tension. A lot of times when you get to this point in a trilogy, you kind of, story-wise, directing-wise, acting-wise, everybody kind of phones it in. And when you also kind of get not all the characters coming back fully, and again, I don't know if that was necessarily this is the way it was in the books. I don't remember. I don't know. I didn't read the book. So forgive me. Somebody out there might know better than I would. But something tells me that I thought more than just two came back for this story. I could be wrong. Either way, normally everybody starts phoning it in at this point, and this, they kind of go out with a bang. There's our heroes are tempted at every opportunity, brought low by some of their insecurities. Lucy wants to be so much like her big sister. She sees her big sister as just beautiful and elegant and everything else, and she feels just awkward in her own body. Edmund always feels like he's second fiddle to his brother, and then Caspian and everything else, and he's kind of looking for a means to be his own person and have nobody tell him who he should be and where he should live. And he's tempted by untamed wealth and power, and they have each of their things to work through, and Caspian as well a little bit. But of course you get Will Poulter, who is he's a kid in this. He's all grown up now, but he was a kid in this, and Eustace is just a complete jackass, but he gets a transformation as well in this adventure, and that's what this is. This kind of story is all about. All told, it finishes. I'm not going to spoil some things for those of you who haven't seen this yet, but there is a sea monster involved in this. When it comes to creatures, I'm going to spoil that. There's a sea monster in this that kind of would have made H.P. Lovecraft proud. I mean, a little bit. It's not like the horror of horrors and, scathing into the mouth of madness kind of thing. But it's a sea creature that, one, moves really well and has details on it that's just not like, I'm a snake in the sea. Oh, look at me, I'm digital. It doesn't, it kind of opens up and does, it's really creepy looking, and it makes for a formidable looking foe for our heroes to battle against. And yes, there is all the religious connotations, inferences all throughout this. I'm not going to go into all that. If you care about that, you probably already know. So whether they keep that intact, yeah, that part is definitely intact, but I don't know if it's necessarily the focus. This is very much a solid children's adventure, teen adventure kind of thing. This is one of those, I realize that just like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, I think Percy Jackson and the Olympians or whatever, that's being made into a series on Disney Plus since they acquired it from Fox. There's been movies that have been on Disney Plus. Only one of them remains. The other ones they've kind of forgotten about or removed or never made it. But I think they're doing a series. And I think that some of these things, if you want something that is going to really delve into the characters on the level that the books do, a series does that so much better. Just like Willow. Willow, to me, the original film, was all right. It did what it was supposed to do. But with a whole brand new series on Disney Plus here, I enjoy the characters a whole lot more. And it's new characters. The only person really coming back for the most part is Willow and the princess, now queen, or whatever, she's mom. For the most part, those are the main characters that are flowing through this. Or Val Kilmer will show up somehow. But in this case, I think the Chronicles of Narnia would serve itself so much better as a season per book, like a long season, short season, whatever it is. I think you could really pump this up in an 8-episode arc, 10-episode arc per book, and really flesh things out and kind of give it the gravitas that the characters and the story and the messages and everything else requires, rather than going, let's make an entertaining Oscar film, which usually never works. It's either going to be an Oscar film or it has to be entertaining. Usually the two rarely mix, because art or something. Like, why can't art be entertaining? Well, this year there's a lot of good contenders, but it's still, the idea is that very often the popcorn fun kind of movies and the Oscar kind of films rarely collide, and that's it's sad. It's not a great thing, but it could be done. It can be done. That's why I think let's serve the story rather than serve the box office. At some point, this is going to be revisited, and it should be in a series. Recast everybody and shoot it all at once, or do whatever you need to do. But the point is, don't scrimp it into 2-3 hour films and try to whittle it down. So it can be done because we have seen it. We have seen it done really well with other properties. Like I've said this before somewhere, they're going to do Harry Potter again at some point. This is not a Disney Plus thing whatsoever, but they're going to do Harry Potter again at some point in the next few decades, and they're going to put it in a series. By the way, speaking of series, the very first place that the Dawn Treader comes to land at the beginning of the movie here, I think it's pretty much Westeros. There's a spot they used, I don't know if it's King's Landing or what. There's a spot they used in Europe or whatever that was so much used in Game of Thrones. It's unmistakable. But that's another pile of BS that doesn't matter. It doesn't relate to this whatsoever. So let's pick tomorrow's episode, because I think I'm done.
245.
245. That seems close to some other number that we've pulled recently. 245. We missed a bunch of shorts, which I could have used after these last 3 hour films. But we got another film, and I don't get to pick this. This picks it randomly. Here we go. 245 is Let It Shine. I don't know what that is, but I guess we're going to find out. Maybe it has religious connotations like this one. Don't know. Anyway, Let It Shine is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.